When I first walked into the stadium that chilly December morning, I didn't expect anything to change. I thought it would be like every other day. Long hours, cold concrete floors, and the quiet hum of a place filled with excitement I could only watch from behind a counter. I smiled as I grabbed my badge and clipped it on, reminding myself that I was here for my kids. They needed the money. That's all I could think about. 8 children, all at home, waiting for me to bring just a little joy, a little warmth. Christmas was coming, and I wanted to give them something special, even if it was small. The lights inside the stadium were bright, almost blinding at first. The smell of popcorn mixed with the faint scent of new paint and polished floors. People were arriving, voices buzzing, laughing, cheering. I felt a little out of place. I had worked here before, yes, but today was different. Today was Christmas Day, and most of the staff were thinking of their own families, while I was just trying to get through my shift. As I walked past the concession stands, I nodded to familiar faces. "Morning, Jan," said Mike, another worker. He was older, with a gentle smile and a kind voice. "Big day today." I nodded back, smiling politely, though inside I felt the quiet ache of exhaustion. "I'll make it through," I whispered to myself. My kids' laughter at last year's Christmas morning flashed in my mind. Tiny hands tearing wrapping paper, sticky fingers, giggles that echoed in the house. That memory carried me through the long night shifts, the early mornings, the missed breakfasts. I moved to my post, checking supplies, stacking napkins, and arranging condiments. The stadium wasn't very busy yet, but it would fill up soon. I adjusted my gloves, shivering slightly. The winter wind outside had left a chill in my bones. I thought about the kids, about the presents I had managed to buy with my paycheck, a little extra for each one, small joys, but enough to light up their faces. And then she appeared. I didn't recognize her at first, but the energy around her made it impossible to ignore. Bright smile, confident steps, a kind of warmth that seemed to radiate. Taylor Swift. My heart skipped a beat. I had heard she might attend the Chiefs game, but I didn't expect her to notice someone like me, someone who just counted pennies and hoped her children could smile on Christmas morning. She waved at a few people as she passed. I froze for a moment, unsure if I should keep working or simply stare. I decided to do my job, to pretend I wasn't trying to take in every detail. But she noticed me. Her eyes met mine, and there was a softness there that made my chest tighten. "Hi," she said, quietly, almost casually. I swallowed hard. "Hello," I replied, voice a little shaky. My hands felt clammy. I smiled, trying to hide my nerves. "You just want to say thank you," she continued. "You're working on Christmas Day. That means a lot." I blinked, trying to process her words. I had expected many things today. Tired feet, long lines, maybe a thank you from a customer or two, but not this. Not someone like her noticing me. Not someone taking a moment to see me as more than just another face behind the counter. It's nothing," I said softly, shaking my head. "Just doing my job." She smiled, but there was something more in that smile. Something gentle, understanding. "It's a lot, really. You're here for your family, and that matters more than anything." And then she handed me a small envelope. I froze, looking down at it. My fingers trembled. I opened it slowly. Inside was $600. $600. My jaw drew dry. I couldn't speak. I stared at the crisp bills, thinking of my children, the small toys, the cookies I had promised them, the joy I wanted to bring into their lives. And now, this. Is this for me? I finally whispered. My voice cracked. "Yes," she said gently. "Just a little something. You didn't have to do this, but I wanted to. For your kids, for your heart." Tears welled up in my eyes. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run and hug her, but I stayed still, trying to collect myself. My thoughts swirled. 2 weeks' paycheck. 2 weeks of scrimping, working double shifts, stretching every dollar to make Christmas special, and here it was, doubled in an instant by someone who didn't even know me. She smiled one last time and walked away, leaving me standing there, my hands clutching the envelope, heart racing, tears threatening to fall. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of awe and gratitude, and all I could think was, maybe, just maybe, this world had more kindness than I had believed. I spent the rest of the morning in a quiet daze. Customers came and went, but I barely noticed. I thought about my children, about the gifts I had bought, about the extra food I could prepare now, about how I could finally buy the warm coats they had asked for, without worrying if I could afford them. By the time my shift ended, I felt lighter, not just because of the money, but because someone had seen me, really seen me, not the worker behind the counter, not the tired, overworked mother, but the human being who loved her children fiercely and tried to do her best even when life was hard. I walked out of the stadium, envelope in hand, the winter sun glinting off the snow. My breath fogged in front of me as I stepped into the cold air. I felt warmth inside that I couldn't explain, and as I headed home, I knew this Christmas would be different. My children would feel it too, not just the presents, but the lesson of kindness, the magic of being noticed, the power of a stranger's generosity. That day, I realized something. Life was full of hard days, days when you felt invisible, days when you worked so much just to survive that the world seemed to forget you. But sometimes, just sometimes, the universe reminds you that your heart, your effort, your love, it matters, that someone, somewhere notices, and that notice can change everything. After the shift, I walked to my car slowly, clutching the envelope as if it were the most fragile thing in the world. The crisp winter air stung my cheeks, and my mind kept going back to the moment Taylor Swift had handed me the money. I felt a strange mix of joy and disbelief. How could someone I didn't know, someone so famous, take the time to notice me, to acknowledge my effort? But then, as I started the car and drove home, the small, gnawing worry crept in. Did I deserve this? Was it right to accept? My thoughts twisted like the snow on the windshield. I had always believed in working hard and earning what I could, not taking handouts, no matter how generous. And yet, the thought of my children, their smiles, the little extra treats I could give them, it was impossible not to feel the warmth in my chest. When I arrived home, the house was quiet. 8 children asleep in various rooms, their soft breathing filling the spaces like a gentle lullaby. I set my bag down and tiptoed to the living room, careful not to wake anyone. The Christmas tree twinkled softly in the corner, ornaments shimmering in the pale light. I placed the envelope on the counter and stared at it. I thought about the weeks leading up to this day, all the early mornings, late nights, the tired meals, the worn-out shoes, the bills I could barely pay, the small joys I had tried to create, like little handmade gifts and extra cocoa for the kids. It had been exhausting, and I had started to wonder if it was enough, if it would ever be enough. And now here was someone, a complete stranger, yet somehow not, who saw my effort and acknowledged it. My heart swelled, but at the same time, a part of me felt vulnerable. Someone had pierced the invisible wall I had built around myself, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, and it scared me. The next morning, I woke before the children, like always. I brewed a pot of coffee and sat by the kitchen window, watching the frost glitter on the roof. I kept the envelope in front of me, unsure if I should open it fully, afraid that doing so might somehow break the magic of the moment. My mind wandered to the practical worries, groceries, heating bills, small emergencies that never stopped coming. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe something good was finally happening. When the children woke, the house filled with the usual chaos, shouts, laughter, footsteps on the stairs. I handed out breakfast, pouring milk into cups, while secretly watching their faces for signs of joy, of curiosity, of excitement. One by one, they noticed the little surprises I had tucked away, a tiny toy for each, a chocolate bar, a small ornament for the tree. Their eyes lit up, and I felt that familiar pang of relief and love. "Mom, did Santa come early?" whispered little Ella, barely 7, holding a small stuffed bear. I smiled, feeling my throat tighten. Maybe he did," I whispered back, brushing her hair from her face. The day felt lighter, almost buoyant, but tension began to creep in when the phone rang. It was my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in a while, not because we fought, but because life had stretched us thin in different directions. She sounded cheerful at first, but as soon as she learned about the gift, I felt it, that sharp, familiar edge of judgment. $600? From who? She asked, a note of incredulity in her voice. I hesitated. From Taylor Swift, I said slowly, unsure how to explain. There was a long silence on the other end. Then she said quietly, almost accusingly, "You didn't, you accepted it?" "I did," I said softly, my own voice trembling slightly. I I didn't ask for it. She gave it to me. For the kids." Another pause. I could hear her breathing. I knew that subtle disapproval in her tone. It was not loud, not dramatic, but it made my chest tighten. You should be careful," she said finally. "People give, but there's always something behind it." I didn't argue. I just nodded to myself, though she couldn't see me. I felt a flash of frustration, but it was buried under fatigue. I had worked so hard. I had only wanted to do something good for my children, and suddenly a shadow of doubt was cast over my happiness. The next few hours were a blur of preparation and errands. I needed groceries, I needed supplies for the kids, I needed to make this Christmas feel special. But everywhere I went, I felt that strange mix of warmth and tension. Warmth from the generosity I had received, tension from the whispers of doubt, the subtle judgments, the fear that maybe it wasn't enough, that life would always find a way to test me even in moments of kindness. By mid-afternoon, I returned home carrying bags filled with food and small gifts. I placed them carefully on the counter, glancing at the envelope again. The kids were playing nearby, unaware of the silent storm of emotions swirling in my mind. I wanted to protect them from the complexities, the doubts, the fears. They deserved joy, simple joy. And yet, I felt it creeping in, the uninvited thought that maybe kindness was fragile, that even the most beautiful gesture could be questioned or misunderstood, that the world could see your vulnerability and twist it into something else. I tried to push it away. I reminded myself of her smile, the gentle words she had spoken, the recognition that I never expected. I thought of the children, their laughter, their tiny hands clutching toys, their eyes wide with wonder, and I allowed myself, briefly, to feel light. Then came the knock on the door. It was not unusual, neighbors, deliveries, but when I opened it, I found a small package, and inside, a card. No sender, just a note. "Keep giving. You are seen." Tears pricked my eyes. I held the card close, feeling the weight of its words. It was a reminder that kindness could travel quietly, without fanfare, without recognition, and yet it carried the same gentle power that Taylor Swift's gift had, the power to make someone believe, briefly, that the world still held goodness. The evening arrived slowly, the soft glow of the Christmas tree reflecting in the windows. I prepared dinner, calling the children to the table. We sat together, hands folded, hearts full, and for a moment, the doubts, the fears, the judgments from my sister, all of it melted away. We were together, and that was what mattered. But even in that warmth, I felt the tension beneath. I knew life would continue to test me, that people would question my choices, that I would have to navigate not only the practical hardships, but the emotional ones as well. And yet, I realized something important. Even small acts of generosity could create ripples, moments of hope that lasted far longer than the money, the presents, the tangible gifts. I held the envelope that night, my hands trembling slightly as I considered what I would do with it. Part of me wanted to keep it safe, untouched, a symbol of the day when someone truly saw me. Part of me wanted to spend it all immediately, to give my children the Christmas they deserved. And I realized that both choices were valid, that this gift was not just money, but a reminder of trust, recognition, and love. As the children slept, I sat by the tree and thought about the subtle conflicts of the day, the tension in my sister's voice, the quiet doubts, the fears that surfaced even in moments of happiness. I understood then that life was never simple, that joy and worry often walked hand in hand, and I made a quiet promise to myself. I would let kindness guide me, even when others questioned it, even when doubts whispered in the shadows. That night, I slept with the envelope under my pillow, feeling a mix of exhaustion, gratitude, and quiet anticipation. I knew the days ahead would not be easy, that challenges would arise, that tensions would test my heart, but for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, truly seen, and that knowledge carried me gently into sleep, a soft light in the darkness. The days after Christmas were quiet. Almost too quiet. The stadium was empty now, the echoes of cheering fans gone, replaced by the faint hum of fluorescent lights and distant footsteps. I kept the envelope hidden in my room, not because I wanted to hoard it, but because it felt sacred. It was a reminder that someone had seen my struggles, had recognized the quiet, endless effort that went into caring for my children. Yet, despite this gift, I found my heart heavy. The weight of my sister's disapproval still lingered, a shadow across the joy I had felt. I replayed her words in my mind. People give, but there's always something behind it. I could hear the caution in her voice, the disbelief, the quiet judgment, and it stung. Not because she didn't understand generosity, but because it felt like a small crack in the fragile bubble of hope I had allowed myself to hold. One afternoon, I decided to go through the envelope fully. I counted the bills carefully, making sure nothing was missing. $600. 2 weeks of my hard work, suddenly multiplied by someone else's kindness. My eyes filled with tears again, but this time a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. What did I deserve? Was I worthy of this? Could such generosity ever be truly unconditional? I remember sitting by the window, watching the gray sky outside, and feeling a quiet panic rise in me. My mind raced. What if it wasn't really for me? What if someone expected something in return? The rational part of me knew that Taylor Swift had given it freely, that she had only wanted to acknowledge my efforts. And yet, the part of me that had spent years scrimping, saving, and worrying couldn't help but wonder, is this really real? The turning point came later that week, when I returned to the stadium for a short post-holiday shift. I had taken the envelope with me, not because I planned to use it there, but because somehow it felt safer to have it close. The familiar sights greeted me. The smell of popcorn, the polished floors, the faint echo of voices from the empty stands. I was alone for a moment, walking past the concessions, when I felt it, the same feeling I had felt when Taylor Swift first approached me, a strange mix of awe, vulnerability, and anticipation. Then I saw her again. She wasn't expecting me, and I wasn't expecting her, but our eyes met. She smiled warmly, that gentle, understanding smile that had stayed with me. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. Kindness was not fragile. It wasn't fragile because it existed inside people, waiting to be noticed, to be accepted, to be shared. She approached me slowly. "Hi again," she said softly. I just wanted to make sure everything's okay. Did the kids enjoy the Christmas gifts?" My voice caught in my throat. "Yes," I whispered, feeling tears well up. They loved them. It made their Christmas really special." Her smile widened, a light in the grayness of my self-doubt. "I'm glad. That's all I hoped for, that you and your family could feel a little more joy this year." I nodded, my heart pounding, and then, without thinking, I blurted out, "I didn't know if I deserved it. I wasn't sure I should accept it." She looked at me for a long moment, and I felt that same warmth, that same reassurance I had felt before. She said finally, "You did. You absolutely did. You work so hard every single day. That effort matters. You matter." Her words, simple as they were, struck me deeper than anything else. I had spent years questioning myself, my worth, my ability to provide, to love, to do enough, and in that moment I felt a shift. Something inside me softened, a wall I had built around my heart slowly crumbling. But even as relief washed over me, the tension returned, not from her, but from within. I had been carrying so much, the worry, the judgment, the fear that life would never recognize me. And I realized that while a single act of kindness could ignite hope, it could also make the hidden doubts rise to the surface. That afternoon, I walked alone through the stadium corridors, thinking. I passed the empty seats, the concession stands, the long, echoing hallways. Every step felt heavy, but with each step, I felt the weight of self-doubt lifting, replaced by something fragile, tentative, but real: hope. At home, later that evening, I tried to explain the gift to my children. Their eyes widened when I told them about the $600, but it wasn't the money that mattered most. It was the story. It was the realization that even strangers could notice the effort, the love, the care that went unnoticed in daily life. I told them about the woman, the singer, who had given without expecting anything in return, and they listened, wide-eyed, as if hearing about magic itself. And yet, as bedtime approached, I felt the old tension return. My sister's words, my own insecurities, the lingering fear that the world's kindness was temporary, all of it pressed against me. I realized that this turning point, this moment of recognition and generosity, was also a test. Could I accept kindness without guilt? Could I believe that I deserved to be seen, to be helped, to be recognized for my efforts? I stayed awake that night, envelope in hand, thinking. I thought about every Christmas, every birthday, every small sacrifice I had made for my children. I thought about every quiet night spent worrying about money, about meals, about what they would wear, what they would eat. And I realized that this gift was not just money, it was acknowledgement. It was proof that my love, my effort, my life, even in the hardest moments, had meaning. The turning point wasn't just about the money. It wasn't even really about Taylor Swift, though I would never forget her kindness. It was about seeing myself through a different lens, about realizing that my worth was not measured only by the bills I could pay, the presents I could buy, or the chores I could complete. My worth was also in the love I gave, in the perseverance I showed, in the quiet, often invisible acts of care that kept my family afloat. And that realization hit me hard. I cried quietly in my room that night, not out of sadness, but out of relief, out of understanding. I had carried so much weight, so many doubts, so many fears of inadequacy, and for the first time, I allowed myself to feel something lighter: acceptance, recognition, hope. I knew the challenges weren't over. I knew that life would continue to test me. But in that turning point, in that quiet moment of emotional breakthrough, I felt a seed of something powerful take root. A seed of belief that kindness, generosity, and recognition, whether from strangers or from ourselves, could transform the way we see our lives. That night, as I drifted to sleep, I whispered a quiet promise to myself. I would carry this lesson forward. I would allow myself to accept kindness, to believe in my own worth, and to share that hope with my children. And I would never forget the moment when someone had looked at me and said without words, "You matter." The days after that turning point felt different. The world hadn't changed, and the challenges of life were still there. Bills to pay, meals to prepare, homework to supervise, shoes to patch, coats to warm little bodies in winter. But inside me, something had shifted. The weight of constant doubt had lifted just enough for me to see clearly. Love, effort, and kindness were not measured by how much I had, but by how much I gave, and by the quiet moments when someone saw me trying. I spent the next morning making a plan. I still had the envelope, still held the gift close, but I wanted to use it wisely, not to splurge, not to indulge myself, but to truly honor what it represented. I thought about the children first. Each of them had dreams, even small ones, little wishes that I had tried to make come true before, but it always felt limited by what I could afford. Now I felt I could go a little further. A few extra gifts, a warm coat for every child, special treats, but also something more, moments, time spent together, memories made in quiet, soft moments rather than big, flashy gestures. I called the kids into the living room, one by one, and asked them what small thing would make them happiest this season. It was so simple, a book, a puzzle, a new mitt for the snow, and yet their faces lit up as they shared their wishes. I took careful notes, planning how to use the gifts to bring these little joys to life. As they left the room, I whispered to myself, "This is what matters. This is worth everything." That afternoon, I wrapped small packages, arranging them under the Christmas tree. I baked cookies for them, letting them taste the dough, laugh at the messy mess in the kitchen, and smell the warm aroma filling the house. For the first time in weeks, I felt a deep, quiet contentment, not because of money or gifts, but because I was finally able to connect with the heart of the season: love, attention, presence. And then came a small, unexpected ripple. My sister called again. I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to hear her voice, but I picked up. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Hi," I replied softly. "How are you?" There was silence. Then, slowly, she asked, Did the kids enjoy Christmas?" I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to say yes, but I also wanted to acknowledge the tension between us. I took a deep breath. "Yes," I said finally. "They were very happy. And I think I understand you better now." There was another pause, softer this time. I didn't realize how much pressure you were under," she admitted. "I was harsh. I'm sorry." I swallowed the lump in my throat, tears pricking my eyes. "It's okay," I said. I want us to focus on the kids, on family. That's what matters." For the first time in months, maybe years, we found a small bridge between us. Not everything was fixed, not every disagreement erased, but there was a crack of light, a small understanding, and that was enough. That evening, I sat with the envelope one last time. I had decided how to use it, not just for the kids' gifts, but also for small ways to care for myself. A warm coat for me, some small treats, even a quiet cup of tea by the window while the children played. I realized that generosity could flow both ways. Accepting kindness didn't diminish my effort, it amplified it. It reminded me that we do not have to carry our burdens alone. Later, the children and I built a small snowman in the front yard. Their laughter rang through the crisp winter air, tiny voices calling my name, snowflakes landing on rosy cheeks. I watched them and felt my heart expand. These moments, fleeting and ordinary, were the real gifts, and the envelope, the unexpected kindness, had made these moments feel safer, brighter, lighter. I thought often of Taylor Swift during these days, her gentle words, her recognition, her gift. I wondered if she knew the impact of her actions, how a single act of attention, a moment of empathy could reach someone like me, whose life often felt invisible, whose struggles were rarely acknowledged. It was not about fame or money or recognition. It was about humanity. One quiet night, I placed the envelope into a small box, along with the card that had arrived with the note, "Keep giving, you are seen." I tucked it away on the top shelf, not because I wanted to forget it, but because I wanted it to be a reminder, a small talisman of hope for the future, a token of what kindness could do and what it could inspire. I began to notice subtle changes in myself. I smiled more freely. I worried less obsessively about what others thought. I allowed myself to believe that my effort mattered, that my love mattered, that even in quiet, unseen ways, I was making a difference in the lives of my children and in the world around me. A few weeks later, I shared a small story with the kids. I told them about the day someone noticed me, about the gift, about the card, and how much it had reminded me that love and kindness are always there, even in unexpected places. Their eyes sparkled as they listened, and I realized something profound. Lessons of generosity, empathy, and gratitude do not need grand gestures. They live in quiet moments, shared in whispers and laughter, in ordinary days made extraordinary by heart. And slowly, the tension that had shadowed me for so long began to lift. I felt lighter, braver, more willing to embrace life as it came, with all its small struggles, small victories, and fleeting moments of magic. I understood that life was never perfect, never predictable, but it could be beautiful if we allowed ourselves to see it, to accept it, to give and receive without reservation. The days that followed felt softer. Life was still busy, still full of small struggles, but the heaviness that had weighed on my heart for so long began to lift. I noticed little things I had overlooked before: the sound of snow crunching underfoot, the way the children's laughter echoed through the house, the smell of fresh-baked cookies filling the kitchen. These moments, so ordinary, had become extraordinary because I was present for them, fully aware and fully grateful. I often thought about that day in the stadium, the moment Taylor Swift handed me the envelope, smiled, and acknowledged my effort. At first, I wondered if I deserved it. I worried about the judgment of others. But now, weeks later, I understood something important. Kindness was never about deserving. It was about seeing someone, acknowledging their heart, and giving without expectation. That was the true gift, the reminder that even small gestures could ripple through someone's life in ways we might never fully see. One evening, after tucking the children into bed, I sat by the Christmas tree and reflected on the past month. I looked at the envelope and the card again. The words on the card still resonated. "Keep giving. You are seen." I realized that the gift had changed me, not just by what it could buy, but by what it represented. It reminded me that I was not invisible, that my efforts mattered, that love, care, and persistence are always seen by someone, even if the recognition comes in unexpected ways. I thought about my sister, too. Our conversations had softened, our voices gentler. She admitted her earlier judgment, and though we weren't perfect, a bridge had formed between us. I realized that acceptance and understanding often require patience, humility, and the courage to see beyond our own biases. In that sense, kindness has a double purpose. It uplifts the receiver and teaches the giver something about themselves, about empathy, about humanity. The children continued to remind me of the magic of small joys. Little Ella came running to me one morning, holding a handmade card she had crafted for me. "Mom, I made this because I love you," she said, eyes shining. My heart swelled. In that moment, I understood that giving and receiving kindness are not limited to money or gifts or grand gestures. They are expressed in time, attention, and love, things I had plenty of, and that money alone could never buy. I used the envelope wisely, just as I had planned. Small treats, little books, warm mittens, quiet experiences together. The children didn't notice the exact value of the gift, and they didn't need to. What they felt was the love behind it, my presence, my care, my joy in seeing them happy. And through that, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. One day, I returned to the stadium to thank those who worked there, quietly acknowledging the people who had been my silent support throughout the season. The memories of that one encounter with Taylor Swift lingered in my mind, not as a story of celebrity or fame, but as a reminder of the human capacity for empathy and generosity. It reminded me that recognition, even from strangers, can inspire courage, hope, and resilience. That night, I sat alone with a cup of tea, reflecting on the journey I had been through, the long hours, the small victories, the doubts, and the moments of joy. I realized that life is a mixture of challenges and blessings, of effort and acknowledgement. Sometimes we work quietly, without applause or recognition, but even in those moments, our work is meaningful. And sometimes the universe, or people in it, remind us that we are not alone, that our effort matters, that love, care, and persistence are always seen by someone, even if the recognition comes in unexpected ways. I whispered to myself, I am seen. My love is enough. My effort matters. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it, truly believed it. Over the weeks and months, I shared the lesson with the children in small, everyday ways, not as a lecture, but through example. I taught them to notice when someone works quietly, to say thank you, to acknowledge effort and care. I told them about the woman who had given us a gift without asking for anything in return, emphasizing that generosity was about kindness, not recognition or reward. Through this, I noticed something remarkable. The children began to reflect that same generosity. Little acts, helping each other, sharing toys, offering hugs, became more frequent. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there. And I realized that kindness, once sown, multiplies quietly in ways we might never fully see. As spring approached, the snow melted, and life returned to its regular rhythm, I felt a calm strength within me. Challenges still existed, bills, work, daily responsibilities, but I no longer felt crushed under their weight. The memory of that Christmas gift reminded me that even in ordinary life, extraordinary moments of love and recognition could exist, and those moments, no matter how brief, could transform hearts. I often think back to that winter morning, to the moment when someone noticed me, when someone saw my effort and offered a gift without expectation. That single act became a turning point, not because of the money, but because it reminded me of what truly matters: presence, love, and the courage to give and receive without fear. Life has taught me many lessons, but the one I carry closest to my heart now is simple. See the effort, acknowledge the heart, give without expecting, and accept when kindness comes to you. That is enough, always enough. And as I tuck the children into bed each night, watch them grow, laugh, and dream, I am reminded that the world is not only a place of struggle, but also a place of quiet, profound generosity, a place where hearts can touch, even across distances, even between strangers, a place where the smallest act of kindness can light up the darkest moments. I close my eyes, holding this truth gently in my heart, and whisper a quiet hope for the future, that we all see and are seen, that we all give and receive, and that in the simple, ordinary days of life, we find extraordinary moments of love. And in that, I feel peace.